Have you ever struggled to find a truly sustainable product that feels both luxurious and practical without having to compromise your values and everyday convenience? Today we are talking about the real obstacles that come with creating high-end goods that are eco-friendly, functional, and built with a purpose. For many entrepreneurs, it's tough to source quality materials, keep production ethical, and break into markets that often overlook thoughtful design. Plus, balancing profit with purpose can sometimes feel impossible. Tackling all this is Lael Barry, founder of Ecolux Goods, a California brand known for its gold-plated antimicrobial straws and a deep commitment to women's empowerment and ocean conservation. In this episode, we'll hear Lael's story from idea to overcoming endless prototypes to how she leads with values at every turn. Get ready to learn practical lessons about building a mission-driven business and making an impact that goes beyond the bottom line. Let me introduce you to a dear friend of mine, yes, again from San Diego. It seems like this season we have a lot of my amazing women from San Diego on the podcast. And today I am bringing you Lael Barry. She is a serial entrepreneur and founder of Ecolux Goods, a California-based luxury brand specializing in sustainable gifts in retail, hospitality, and corporate gifting. With over 20 years of experience in the beauty industry, she brings a unique blend of creativity, grit, and strategy to everything she builds. Known for turning bold ideas into elegant, impact-driven businesses, Lael leads with integrity, independence, and intention. Her work is rooted in a deep commitment to sustainability, self-reliance, and empowering women through thoughtful design and conscious commerce. Girl, I am so excited to have you on the podcast. I was just recording with another gal of mine in San Diego, and I was joking. I'm like, yeah, I just need to leave San Diego to finally have you ladies on the podcast. And it's been interesting how she's like, yeah, but 6 months ago, I wouldn't have wanted to come on the podcast simply because how her business has grown. And considering the behind the scenes green room conversations that we had, knowing what has been happening at Ecolux, I think I might be just as lucky with you on that one because, girl, things have been happening. It's like, we are talking Vegas and all kinds of things.
Yes.
So tell my audience, we talked luxury gifting. They already have a little bit of an idea. What is Ecolux? What do you do?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And like your last person 6 months ago, this would have been a very different conversation. So it's awesome to be here. So Ecolux is a sustainable luxury company, and we make products that are good for people and the planet. So we started with a flagship product, a 22 karat gold straw. And yes, you've heard that right. Everybody kind of looks at me cross-eyed when I say that. So not only is it, a beautiful thing, it's also very practical. So I came up with the idea. I was sitting, in San Diego, cocktails can be $30 plus. And I was sitting on right? And I'm sitting on this beautiful rooftop drinking a cocktail with a paper straw that was like melting in my mouth and in my drink. And I was like, all right, I am all for saving the turtles, saving the ocean, reducing waste. But this is not it. There has to be a better solution. And at the time, I was 4 years into another project. And so I have this whole list in my phone of like things I want to do. I call it my bucket list. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put that down. And, I go back to it and I was, thinking about how I could create something around it, right? Because you can't just sell a product. There has to be a story. There has to be value behind the product. And after experiencing a loss of a business through COVID and like leaving a business a couple years into it just for lack of value alignment, I came to this point where I had a sabbatical and I came back to this straw idea and I was like, you know what? I'm a straw person. I don't know if you
Same
are,
here.
but
Same here.
I feel like if you're a straw person, you're a straw person. And I was like, okay, if you want somebody to take something like a straw around with them and use it, it's got to be a really special straw. Like, you're not going to take a plastic straw out to a nice bar with you. I mean, maybe you would,
You
but
know,
I would say most people
those
won't.
cheap ass packages. I'm like, I love my turtles. There is a reason why we don't want plastic straws out there. Yes, I get it. I hate paper straws with a compassion. The same thing. And yes, I've gone with the other ones, right, with the packages you have ready to go. But it's like I just never take them with me. And then just the idea of stainless steel and cleaning and doing, and it just, that is definitely a hindering of people using a product like that. I can completely see that.
Absolutely. And I'm allergic to most metals, so I can't use a lot of metal things. Glass will break. So there's just all these problems with reusable straws. And so gold, so our straws are silver, solid silver, and then plated with 1 micron, which is 20x industry standard gold. And both of those metals naturally are antimicrobial, antibacterial, hypoallergenic. So you literally, and I know this is like strange for people, they freak out when I tell them this, like you can dip it in water, wipe it off, and put it in the hemp bag that is also naturally antimicrobial. And that's it. Like you don't need soap because germs, mold, nothing will grow on it. So it's a little bit of a shift in mindset about how it works. And you can use soap if you'd like. And people always ask,
Just
can I
for
put
the
it in the
peace of
dishwasher? And I'm like,
mind. Just for the
I'm
peace
like,
of
you can do
mind.
whatever you want. But in a dishwasher, like, A, you're not putting gold in a dishwasher. B, dishwashers sanitize. These are self-cleaning. You don't need it. So anyways, came up with the product. And then I really wanted to build something that was in alignment with my values and give me a purpose beyond just building a company, right? So we are a California social purpose corporation. We have our social purpose written into our bylaws and are held accountable by the state of California. It's like a mini B Corp. We don't, obviously, we're a bootstrap startup. We don't have the resource for the accounting and all the reporting that goes into a B Corp, but it's more or less, very similar. And our communities that we support are women in business and ocean conservation projects. So that is really special to me, and we can get into that later. But that's kind of how I got into the idea. And since then, I've designed other products and moving into other things. But yeah, it all started with a gold straw.
Now, I would love for you to share your story of the evolvement of Ecolux, because it's like I had the honor to be able to somewhat follow along from the initial idea, from your travels to source the right production companies and all the things. And I would love my audience to really hear a little bit of that journey, how you went from that idea to creating this product and selling it.
Yeah, so there's no such thing as a linear way to anything, right? So I kind of went back, kind of brainstormed the business and the value add that we were offering as a company. And from there, I was like, okay, now I have to do a product. I've never done product before. My other businesses were hair salon and tech. And so this is like a whole new thing. But if there's anything that I've learned from doing all of these businesses is that you can learn anything, and it's all about your network and reaching out and asking for help and asking for connections. So funny enough, it was June of 3 years ago. So what is that? 23, 22? 22. I don't math. So June of 22, I met this jeweler, and his name is David. And I was like, hey, I have this idea, and can you help me source it? And so he sourced from different countries for his own jewelry. And so he helped me find a manufacturer in India, and we started prototyping. And you would think that a straw would be very simple, but it's not, especially at a small scale when you're prototyping. Crazy enough, it actually becomes easier when you're doing large things because they can use machines and all kinds of stuff. So at first they were being made by hand. And I loved that, but that if I could show you the original video of them being made, I was like, when I first saw the video, I was like, what? I mean, they were literally hand pulling silver with it's like they had done it from 1,000 years ago. I mean, it was really interesting to see, but it's not scalable, right? But anyways, we started sourcing. We looked into Thailand. We looked into, various sources to buy. And I really liked the people we were working with in India. I liked the product. So first it was like, all right, let's get a prototype, and they're all the little things that you wouldn't think about, right? Like the diameter of the straw and how thick is it? And do we bevel? I mean, for over a year, we prototyped, and we probably had 10 to 15 prototypes until it was finally like, okay, this feels good. And then your next step is...
It's like I'm sitting over here again. If you are only listening to the podcast, I know I've been repeating myself. You should be watching because you're missing out on my faces. It's this thing of this everyday thing.
Choked on my coffee. About your faces. I'm like, yeah, my faces. It's the same thing. But sorry.
I can't hide my faces. I can't hide my faces.
Me either.
But it's like, it's one of these things where it's like, yeah, I knew what you were going to say, where it's like, yeah, the little things you don't think about. But just hearing about this process of sourcing a straw. We are not sourcing a specific layout of a piece of jewelry that's so customized and all that. It's a straw. But then hearing that it took you a year with 15 prototypes, and then suddenly I'm like, yeah, because she mentions which diameter do you want it? How much opening do you want? Do you want bevel on it? Do you want this on it? Do you want that on it? And suddenly I'm like, yeah, I really didn't think about any of these things. And I'm like, holy cannoli. So that was your first phase.
Well, yeah. And then even in, just to add more to that, it's like once you get the design, then it's like how much plating, and then you have to use the straw. Is it wearing? How is it wearing? What happens when I put it in the dishwasher? What happens if I leave it in water for a week? So it's a lot of testing so that that when your product, it is the best possible product that you can have, and you've tested the wear, all the things. Because nobody wants, our straws are not inexpensive. They're silver and gold, and they're meant to be heirlooms, and they are made to the highest quality. Again, we're 20x past industry standard for gold plating. So it's all these little tiny details that, first of all, if I had known how many, and they always say, like, if you knew what you were getting into, you would have never started. But then you just get so far in that you're like, well, I'm already here. What's the next, and then before you know it, you're like, well, I'm already up to my chin, so I might as well just keep going. So yeah, then there's the sourcing, then the prototyping. And then once you get to prototyping, you're like, okay, now I have this idea. I have this prototype. Who's going to buy it? How much are they willing to pay for it? And so you have to put your baby out there into the world. And I first started selling just locally, friends, family, anybody who would listen. I have an amazing network, and my friends supported me. The first people that bought, and our product has evolved even from that moment as well, into a completely just better product. But anyways, in the early stages, I tell this story a lot because it's just one of the things that, like, you'll run up against as a founder, as an innovator or anything. People will question your idea, and you have to be so sure of what you're doing, that doesn't sway you. Like, you always want to listen to feedback, right? Like, if your idea is shit, like, you want to know that. But I was at this night market, and it was supposed to be like, kind of a high end, but it's like candles. I was sharing a table with a lady selling like crystals and stuff, which is totally my vibe. But this man walked by, and he was like, a straw, like gold straw. My wife would kill me if I bought something so frivolous. And I'm just like, well, luxury is not for everyone. Like, we are a luxury company. Like, okay, move along. Like, if it's the cost that, and without even hearing anything about, like, again, you look at a straw and you're like, okay, it's a straw. Well, this isn't just a straw. It's naturally antimicrobial, antibacterial, and it's beautiful. So you can take it out. It's a conversation starter. You can engrave it. You can, there's so much more to it. But at first glance, it's easy to kind of brush it off. And then you get into the point of like, okay, well, how do I explain this in a way that people understand? So then you get into marketing, branding, all of that stuff. And then from there, it was like, okay, we have enough traction. I'm going to invest in a website. I'm going to invest in some marketing, so then you go there, and then you just keep kicking the can. And then eventually you're like, okay, we've got some traction with our website, and like, we're on to something. People are buying, people are interested. It's a unique gift. So that's kind of when I was like, okay, maybe people won't buy these for themselves. But what an interesting gift to give someone. People give people pens that are like $700, right? Just like a pen. It writes like any other pen. Most people aren't going to purchase that for themselves, but it's an incredible gift that's unique. And when you get it, you're like, wow, I would have never thought of this, right? So that's when I was like, okay, a market pivot into gifting. And then from there, we went into that. And then, I have an incredible board of advisors, all of these things. And it was like, okay, you can sell one straw at a time. And as you, gain traction, maybe you're selling 100 a month, or maybe, and that's great, but that's like a very slow process. And when you're doing everything yourself, you're shipping, you're this, you're that, you're doing the marketing, it was like, and I'm running a full-time business. Like, okay, how can we ramp this up to where I have a business, not just like a very expensive hobby? So I was in an accelerator cohort with Stella, their local women's entrepreneur organization in San Diego. And I was in their cohort and brainstorming with the mentors that they would bring in, and brainstorming with the other brilliant founders I was in the cohort with. And, you're kind of always talking about your business and getting feedback. And, from regular gifting, it was like, okay, well, maybe we could go for like weddings, where people might buy 100 for their guests, or, that kind of thing. And then the craziest thing, I was talking to a friend who's a chef who used to work as a chef for the Four Seasons. And he was like, you should go into hospitality. Like, they have budgets for gifting for their customers. And I'm like, that's interesting. Not only would they be buying in bulk, but it's putting the product directly into the hands of my target market. So we were like, okay, so that's kind of where that shift happened. And then I got connected with someone who connected me into hospitality, and it just kind of has been rolling like that. So and I kind of fell into it, really.
So the thing is, did you actually fall into it? Because you didn't really fall into it. You had those conversations, you stepped out of your comfort zone, you put yourself into rooms to start those conversations. So I don't know if you actually fell into it. I would say you kind of made it happen. And I think that's one of the big lessons here, where it's like, put yourself out there, have those conversations. And I wanted to come back around because there's multiple conversations happening, right? You mentioned the conversation you originally had at the table at the event where it's like, why would I buy this? And now suddenly on the other side, you have those conversations where it's like, oh yeah, corporate gifting, hospitality gifting, where it's making that decision of which are the right conversations to have and which ones are the conversations you're just like, cool, thank you. Thank you for your unsolicited feedback. Appreciate it. Bye. And just being able to make the distinction of what is feedback that actually matters and what is feedback that is just your limiting beliefs and somebody else's ego. And you also, I wanted to bring this back around. I love hearing your journey with all of this and how this went. Everything you do is about thoughtful design and conscious commerce and empowering women. How do those values show up in your daily leadership, in your business decisions? How does that all become one thing?
Well, I think going back a little ways into my other businesses, especially the one that wasn't aligned with my values, I think there comes a point where, this is your life's work. You're spending most of your time doing this stuff. And you really need to know who you are, what your values are, and every decision that you make for your business and in life, you always come back to your core values and you say, is this in alignment? And that's also how you can give or take feedback, right? Someone can give you feedback and then you come back and you sit with it and you gut check yourself. You not compare it, you set it next to your values and you say, is this in alignment or is it not? And so, my core values, freedom, independence, integrity, excellence. I don't know, there's more in there, but those are the ones that come off the top of my head, right? Those are like my top ones. And if you're always acting in alignment with those, you can never go wrong. It's like, and then yeah, you just always come back to yourself, always come back to that inner knowing. And at the end of the day, as a founder, you kind of have to be a little bit delusional. You have to be able to hear people kick your idea around and you have to be like, nope, thank you for your input or, your feedback, but this feels right for me and I'm going to keep doing this. But then again, you also have to, at the same time, be flexible in the unfolding of the idea and willing to pivot, and willing to do things differently. And sometimes, the feedback doesn't come from a mentor. It doesn't come from a mastermind. It doesn't come from an accelerator. It comes from a friend who's a chef completely out of the realm of the world that I live in, right? So it's like inspiration is everywhere. I think being open to that.
I love that.
I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. And I know there's a lot that goes into it. And now I'm throwing you another curveball because your business encompasses luxury, sustainability, self-reliance, the idea of making this world a better place. How do you balance profitability with purpose, wanting to make a change, wanting to have an impact, wanting to make the world a better place, still needing to be profitable in all of this? How does that all fit together in your business? Because for me, and things I've been told as a child and limiting beliefs in the past, helping isn't profitable. And yes, I threw a complete limiting belief there at you. So I'm curious how, again, coming back around to the question, how do you balance profitability and purpose and making the world a better place in your business?
I think this is where my train of thought was going earlier, was when you've been out of alignment with your values, you know what that feels like, right? And then when you dig deep and you really find out who you are and what you want to do, that alignment kind of comes naturally, right? It's funny because it's in our bylaws that we've reserved 10% of our profit for our philanthropy work. And I have people that are like, why don't you make money before you give it away? And I'm like, look, this is important to me. Like, I want to make a difference. I want to have an impact. And we live in a capitalist society where everything's profit and bottom line. And at some point, let's say your company is bringing in tens of millions of dollars. Like, at what point is enough, right? And I come from the values that the more you give, the more you have. My grandmother was like such an example of this. And she always said, I'm generous and I always have enough. And that to me was something that I was raised with. And that's an internal value that can't be taught. It's actually really funny too, because people ask, why 10%? And I'm like, well, I was also raised very religious. It's a whole nother story. But in the Bible, if you want to get like weird about it, not weird, but like, in the Bible, it says 10%. People tithe 10% to their churches. And in turn, the churches are supposed to, in service to their community, take that money and be in service to their community, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, if 10% is good enough for the Bible and good enough for churches, it's good enough for me. So that's been something that's where I came up with it. And it was like, again, going in line with the value of like, not only does it feel good to be in service of other people, but it's a fulfillment that you only know if you do it, right? If you go and serve homeless people food, if you volunteer for an organization, it fills your cup in a way that money can't. Money's great. I love money. I don't have a problem with money, but it's a different fulfillment that you can get from that. And so again, it's my values and being in alignment with my values and making sure that every day that I'm acting out of those values. And I'm not perfect. And sometimes I get stingy, and, we're humans, it's part of our growth. But, I think for me, the more of my time that I've donated, the more of my resources that I've donated, the more fulfillment I get. And so to me, it's a win-win.
I love that. And oh my God, yes, could we dive even deeper into all of this? Yes, and maybe I just have to have you back on the podcast. For now, tell people, where can they find you? Where can they find Ecolux? Where can they learn more about your company?
So we are on socials. Everything's Ecolux Goods. So Ecolux Goods on TikTok, Instagram. Our website is www.ecoluxgoods.com. Right now, we are not selling direct to consumer. We are focusing fully on our B2B market. We are still in negotiations and things with our properties in Vegas, so I can't say that yet, but eventually you can find them at luxury properties in Vegas. We're moving into retail I'm one person. There's a lot going on, but I do have a sales team doing retail. We were invited to sell on Anthropology Marketplace. That will probably happen early next year. We're going to be pitching to more retail outlets. And, but again, that's probably a more beginning of next year before it will be available to customers. Right now, we're just really focusing on our hospitality market.
I love that. And as you know, anybody that has been here longer than one episode, all of the links are easily accessible for you in the description of above, left, right, wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do, because next to Lael, we have some more amazing women joining the podcast, and I want to see you, and I want to have you in the audience. So hit that subscribe button. I'll see you then. Lael, thank you so much for joining me, and thanks everybody for joining us.